His plea to guilty in the murder of his classmate, 13-year-old Tristyn Bailey. Fucci also took a moment to offer an apology to the Bailey family. Welcome to Action News Jax at noon. I'm Dawn Lopez.
And I'm Phil Amato. Aiden Fucci changed his plea around 10 o'clock this morning. Today was set to be the start of jury selection for his trial. Action News Jax has live team coverage, including intel from our law and safety expert and a timeline of the case. But first, we start with Action News Jax' Robert Grant live outside the courthouse. And Robert, you were inside the courtroom for that apology.
Yeah, and Phil, Aiden Fucci entered the St. Johns County Courthouse here behind me with a suit and tie on. That's where he stood before a judge and changed his plea to guilty. Now, this happened on what would have been the first day of jury selection. He also took a brief moment to apologize to the Bailey family. Take a listen.
And I'm sorry for the Bailey family and my family. Okay.
And the judge accepted his guilty plea to first-degree murder. That charge holds a mandatory minimum of 40 years in prison. It's a maximum life in prison. The case has gone through many motions from the defense over the past several months. That includes a push to delay the trial and also move it out of St. Johns County. After today, it's going to move on to sentencing. 16-year-old Tristyn Bailey was reported missing early on Mother's Day. This was back in 2021. Detectives found her body just hours later in the woods near her St. Johns County home. The sheriff's office says her body had more than 100 stab wounds. Now, this afternoon, we are joined by Action News Jax law and safety expert Dale Carson, a criminal defense lawyer. And Dale, this was not a plea deal that was made. This was a plea straight to the bench. Can you kind of explain what that means?
Right. Well, it means that the state didn't agree to a plea, and the defendant always has the opportunity to make a decision to plead guilty. This is not a bench trial. This is a plea to the court in which the state has no requirement to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. What that means is it kind of turns off the spigot for all the information that would be displayed fully in front of a jury. So this is one reason for doing that. The second reason is it shows an acceptance of responsibility, which helps reduce the potential penalty. I heard you mention that it's 40 years. It's actually 20 for review when someone's 14 years old and commits the crime, and that's a recent change to the law. But the reason for doing this is to satisfy the need for apologizing to the family, not putting them through the trial. All of those have advantages when it comes to ultimately the penalty he will receive and whether or not the review in 20 years will provide some relief for him.
And I want to ask you, you mentioned the 20 years. Is it 40 years what they mentioned in court because he's being tried as an adult? Is that the difference there?
It is. That is the difference. And, of course, this will have to play out. The court has accepted the plea, which is not an immediate affair. The judge has to make certain that it's done freely and voluntarily, and apparently that was done here in court today. So it is unusual, but I don't think it has anything to do with the 6-member jury panel, because in order to preserve that, he has to enter a no contest plea, which did not happen here. So the result is he won't really be able to appeal any of the early work done by the defense team here.
All right. Dale Carson, Action News Jax law and safety expert, thank you so much for your time. And that's a 6-person jury versus what would have been a 12-person jury. They made that decision right before day one of jury selection here. Now, after that, it will go to a sentencing. That date, they have a status hearing first, then they choose the date of the sentencing. The status hearing is going to be February 23rd, so that is when Fucci's attorneys will be back in court here in St. Johns County. But I'm also working on talking to neighbors and also getting community reaction to this. Of course, still remembering Tristyn Bailey, the victim, just 13 years old after all of this. That will be starting on Action News Jax at 5. But for now, with local coverage you can count on in St. Augustine, I'm Robert Grant, Action News Jax.
All right,